Hey everybody, it's Jimmy, and once again, welcome back to Everything Under the Sun. Talking with two of my best buddies from the comedy world, Jeff Banger right here, and Mr. Jesse Nutt over there. I give you a little background on me. My Uncle Wiley opened up a comedy club here in Dayton, Ohio in 1982. In 1995, I started working there. In 2000, I became the manager and worked there for 10 years. Basically was a part of our lives, all of my family's lives since we were kids. Next to music, comedy is my favorite thing in the entire world. Banger, I kind of cut you off a little bit because you kind of jumped ahead on you. You started in 93 and then you jumped to 2002. What was the comedy like in between that? I mean, were you regularly working? Were you emceeing? Were you featuring?
I emceed a few times.
Well, the first time
open mic nights.
The first time I ever saw you do comedy was at one of Ray's shows, Ray Jackson, and I knew he was funny because he went up as a farmer, and a brother from the back of the place said, "I thought you were." I'm a farmer,
yeah.
And Banger goes, "I'm not talking about the cornrows on top of your head." But the crowd lost it.
Burnt cornrows.
Burnt cornrows. Lost it. Thought he was the greatest in the world. And I was like, and I only known him for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And after that night, we became best friends. He also trusted me, and I set him up to Eminem. And as he's hitting the stage in front of an all-black crowd, Eminem's going, "You all act like you ain't never seen a white person before." As he's hitting the stage, and they lost it from there, he had him. And that's why I love him to death. And that's why that night I had to kick him in the ass and be like, "This is not the Banger I know."
Mm-hmm.
You know? We've been through so much together that it's just, I was depressed. Like, this is not the man I know. One of the things that we do a lot at the club is we used to hang out afterwards. We'd have a few drinks, maybe a little smoky smoke if it was around, mainly the staff and the comics. And one of the things I used to love was the old road stories. And as I've been preparing for this and talking to Jesse and Banger, I've also talked to some other comics and found out that Banger and I were a part of a lot of their road stories. So the first time, I mean, I heard it's very hard. I never did it because I was at Wiley's all the time. The first time on the road, I mean, were you gone for weeks, or were you guys both doing the going away for the weekend, coming home on Sunday, kind of thing, still working a regular job to a point?
Oh yeah, at first I was still working regular gigs. But yeah, the first booked week, like you're there Wednesday through Sunday, I'm pretty sure it was probably Cincinnati was my first booked week, club week outside of Dayton. And it was a trip because, did the commute on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday just, crashed at the condo and stayed for the weekend. Surreal. It in so many ways, at least to me, it was like, okay, this is everything that you do it for. You know, the cushy, clean rooms, and everybody's so nice to you. Yeah, this is.
Then you stay at Wiley's condo.
Where were you staying?
Well, back then, clubs had the money.
What you also got to understand, no, I've been at the Wiley's condo. I've been at both. I've been at all the different iterations of the Wiley's condo.
I lived in one of those Wiley's condos.
Look, that didn't trip me out at all. I thought that was part of the experience. To me, it was like, if you got a hotel, okay, a hotel's cool. And that's what I mean about kind of cushy and it's clean and all this. Would I rather be in a condo? Most of the time, yeah, because you develop those friendships and you hang out, and and a lot of times, man, it's those writing sessions, impromptu or not, where a comic that you just meet was, "Hey man, that line I got a tag for it," and boom, and the tag fits, and nobody else ever thought of the tag. It's just, it's just sometimes that creative magic only happens, between strangers, to be honest. So, yeah, it was cool, man. I've always loved the road.
What about you? What was your first road gig?
My first road gig was with was with Steve Caminiti
Cams.
and John Kirby
Yeah.
and Jesse Nutt in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Lunch Bag, was that the name of the bar?
Oh, I don't remember.
It was some kind of, it had something to do with a brown paper bag, is the only thing that I remember about the place.
Well, that should tell you it's a Cam's gig.
Well, it was definitely a Cam's.
You know what, I
It
gotta
was
give him
definitely a
credit.
Cam's gig.
That man could get gigs for comics in places that you never thought
Let me
you'd
tell you
get
something.
comedy.
Cams is one of the people that he was already famous when I started. Because
Right, he was nerdy.
the nerd of comedy.
Yeah.
Because when I started, you know, getting at Wiley's was how I heard about Aunt Maudie's,
Mhm.
which was the other part of my early education. This little tiny joint in Over the Rhine, when
Oh,
Over
yeah.
the Rhine was dope.
That was,
Blair Shannon,
yeah, and somebody else.
Roger Naylor,
Roger Naylor.
Oh, yeah.
Rico Diaz,
Bert Chalice.
Bert
was down
Chalice,
there.
that's where I first met Bert. Mike Flannery, who was also a big deal already.
Oh, yeah.
There were so many of those guys that I met, and it was such a great place. You know, I don't want to get into too many old stories, but yeah, they were just great places.
Well, I mean, you see, the thing for me is to realize over the last couple weeks, is I never realized, I'm gonna be honest, maybe it was just me or me and the club, but I just figured that the way we were at Wiley's was the way that every other comedy club was around.
Not at all.
And,
Not at all.
and then my Uncle Wiley told me a long time ago, Jimmy, listen, man, this is more, they're not necessarily coming here because we pay a lot of, they're coming here because of us.
Yeah.
And were there clubs like that where you were like, okay, man, I know I'm going to have a good time. I know this is the place to be. I know it's going to be fun. I'm really excited about going there. Do you have that club out on the road?
I used to. There were clubs in Pittsburgh, Columbus, Parkersburg, West Virginia. Chillicothe's always been. I love Chillicothe like I love Dayton. That's one of the, for a town of its size, has one of the most intelligent and appreciative comedy audiences of anywhere in the country. Seriously.
Yeah.
There's some clubs in the South, some clubs up on the Northeast, but mostly, honestly, man, I'll be honest, man, I prefer the Midwest. I think people in flyover country have a different way of enjoying comedy than people who want that New York, LA experience.
Right. I think that we're more honest. We're spending our hard-earned money, so you better make us laugh.
Yeah.
That's how I think the Midwest is that
Yeah.
we've worked hard for this money. So, you know, well, I have to, the only time I've ever worked other clubs is I worked Spire's room in Mason City.
Illinois.
And Mason City Limits. And the last time I worked there was with the legendary John Fox. And if you want to talk about road stories, well, road stories right there. John Fox is the king of them.
I miss him.
Nothing like being woken up at 8 o'clock in the morning with John Fox standing over the top of you in his boxers and a t-shirt going, "Get up, you bald. You got to make me some breakfast." And he's just saying, "Come on, wake up!" Ah! And you just have to know Foxy, you know. But still, there's somebody to me that had it all and never continued to work on his craft, because we all know he was, but they were still working. His jokes were still
Dude,
amazing.
the one that gets me, Frankie Bastille.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Frankie was one of my early mentors. I'll be honest, man. I love Frankie. I worked with him and Lord Correct.
Oh, yeah.
And
But they taste good.
man, I'll tell you what. Death Before Juggling. Just
You know what? I got
Crazy
another story
stuff.
for you by Lord Correct. I hope, Lord, if you're listening, I hope that him and Frankie are playing together somewhere in Pennsylvania.
is this that? If this is that road story.
And there's a dog show going on in the hotel. So during the day when they are all sleeping, the dogs are barking and going nuts and crazy. So Friday and Saturday night, Frankie ran up and down the hallways at 4 o'clock in the morning blowing a dog whistle and waking all the dogs up.
I had to get him.
I mean, it's the crazy things. I mean, you know, we had a road story with Augie and Henry Phillips in
Oh,
Nashville.
boy.
I ran into Bastille on an Amtrak train coming back from Kazi's. I picked up the train in D.C. He was on the train and almost got us kicked off the train. Yeah, we go.
That sounds like Fox.
Oh, my God.
Papura was the same way. Papura would
Loved
take
it.
his clothes off in the movie theater.
Oh,
Wiley tells me those stories all the time. And I used to go with Eddie Gossett to the movies. And he purposely, this is when Eddie was kind of a big guy, would purposely sit right next to me because I'd have to move. He wanted to see, I mean, just driving down the road with him, and he'd dance to Chicago, and he'd make the whole car shake. And he'd be like, what are they looking at us for? And I'm like, really, man,
Really don't, yeah.
But tell them the Augie Smith and Henry Phillips
Can we tell that on here?
Yeah, I mean, they can't deny it.
Oh, yeah, I know, but.
We went, well, I
So
mean,
we were down in Nashville,
For Bonnaroo.
Bonnaroo. We go down and spend the night in Nashville. The next day we get up and we go, what is it, 5-10 miles down the road?
yeah, the
And we stay for
Bonnaroo.
2 hours till we get inside Bonnaroo.
Basically,
Basically,
nice, it was 10 hours the first year.
Okay, the first year, because somebody wouldn't shut up. Anyway, we're hanging out with Augie and Henry Phillips at
The Nashville
the
Club.
Nashville Comedy Club.
Is it the Improv?
No, it's not the
what did why do I want to call it crackers? It's not crackers.
It's not,
No.
It's
it's gonna hit us.
Well, whatever.
Zanies.
Zanies.
Zanies,
yeah.
And Augie's
Augie won.
featuring.
Yeah, Augie was featuring, Henry was headlining, and we go back to the hotel, and they come to the hotel with us. Not go hang out with
With the whole staff that
with
was
the
there,
staff.
they were like,
They were
Jimmy
standing there, "How
and
you
Banger
gonna
here,
do that?"
we're going with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, who's Jimmy and Banger? So anyway, we go back to the hotel, and everybody's smoking and drinking
And eating,
and
we were all vegetarians that night,
well,
eating some mushrooms.
that's why I was
Okay.
wondering, can we say that here?
Yeah.
Augie Smith ate mushrooms, and I babysitted him until 6 o'clock the next morning
At-
on a bench out by the pool.
At 3 o'clock, he stood up and, I mean, we got 15 people in the room. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he stands up and goes, I gotta go for a walk.
Gotta go for a walk.
And at 6
I
o'clock
go
in the
with
morning,
me.
I finally turned to him and Henry and they go, I love you guys, but you got to fucking go.
Yeah.
We're going to Bonnaroo,
You need to
dude.
go home.
We got 4 days of doing this. You cut into my sleep time, you know.
We had to sleep that night.
That we didn't sleep, dude. We went to
It was fun. We had a good
it was
time.
a good time. But
We had
yeah,
a good story.
we had the time with Foxy and
So
Chris
I'm
and stuff.
in Illinois, and I gotta go Spire, you know Spire.
Yes.
Spire sends me to the train station to pick up Fox. Why? Because we gotta go to Springfield and do radio.
Okay.
John
and then-
Fox, legendary Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, that guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I go to the train station, the train pulls up like it's supposed to, right on time, stops. Couple people get off, see some bags come off, doors close, train starts to move, and I'm going, wait a minute, where's Fox? He's supposed to be on his train. What the heck is going on? The train moved maybe 100 feet and come to an abrupt slam stop. You ever seen him do that?
Yeah.
Just slam, stop. And I'm going, what's going on now? And all at once the door flies open, this bag falls out on the ground, and the conductor is kicking Fox off the train and said, I told you to stay right there by the door.
Me and Banner drove over to Indianapolis and picked up John and his girlfriend and
Oh, Lord.
took them to Bob and Tom to do the radio
Oh,
show.
Lord. That was-
Yeah, Foxy. We could do a whole podcast on Foxy
Oh,
stories.
yeah.
I mean, but we got like, I mean, do you have a favorite story where you're like, I can't believe this?
All I will say is I was on a gig with Foxy. He was headlining, I was featuring. I don't remember the town. I do remember the fact that it was a family-owned establishment, and the young lady that was serving drinks was 16. And I remember that there was a certain body part Foxy was desperate to see.
Yeah.
And he
That's not
convinced
that
her
far.
to flash him from the stage.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've never seen anyone in my life that could get a woman out of her clothes quicker than Fox. In public.
Literally.
In
Now,
public.
human,
Like, you gotta be kidding.
a train wreck. But, yeah,
Yeah.
had an ability.
He
I mean,
And a gift.
Yeah, the second time we played Wireless, we had an interesting story, but we can't go into that on here. There's so many stories that Bader and I have, because we did radio with these guys every single Friday morning.
Yes, we did.
We did one of our favorite comics, and I don't want to mention him by name, but Orange Barrels. And it was his birthday, and we literally stayed in the club, walked out the door, and went over to do radio at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we did.
Okay? And then me and dumbass here go, okay, you can go back home and go to bed. We'll trust you'll get up in a couple hours to do WTUE. No, we ended up having to do WTUE. I mean, we've had those stories. Because nothing's the condo downtown at Dayton Tower. I mean, if you couldn't get a hold of them, you had to stand at that door and ring that bell until they answered the phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just, like Todd used to say about Wiley's, well, why'd they find Daddy in the middle of the highway with hypodermic needles hanging out of his ass? Wiley's.
We don't talk about that anymore.
I love talking about Wiley's. My Uncle Wiley is probably one of my favorite uncles in the entire world. I still talk to him all the time. We still laugh, and he still is one of the craziest people I've ever met in my entire life. What did you hear? You told me something about Wiley's where people were like, I want to play Wiley's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, everywhere I'd go. You tell me from Dayton, you ever played Wiley's? Yeah, it's my home club. How do I get in? No, literally, how do I get in? And, wow, that's, they've heard from, especially if they heard from any of the Chicago guys that played there. Any of those people. Yeah, they wanted to play. Any of the LA guys, they wanted to play Wiley's.
Right.
It was one of those clubs that was on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. Wiley's to me, and like I said, I've been to other comedy clubs all over. The one that's the closest ever I came to it was the Comedy Corner in West Palm Beach,
I
Florida.
remember that club.
It was a nice little club. I saw Carrot Top there. I saw Richard Jenny there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the closest to Wiley's I ever came to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There was just something about Wiley's that you had to bring your A game. If you didn't bring your A game, they weren't going to let you get away with it. The crowd, not Wiley.
That was the best part. Was these were not these. The audiences at Wiley's from the very beginning up to now, the audiences in Dayton in general, have always been really savvy comedy consumers.
Right.
That's the best way I can put it. Almost in the same way that you could say, okay, New York City or New Orleans, those people know their jazz.
Right.
So you get in there, don't come with no bullshit.
Chicago knows their blues.
Yeah, Chicago knows their blues.
Right.
Okay, don't come in here half-stepping. It won't work.
Right.
So it's kind of like that, and I think that's one of the reasons why comics wanted to come here. And it always used to crack me up. One of the things I've always loved, perversely, is especially when cocky comics will come to Dayton. Maybe they got a little bit of a rap on the coast. Maybe they've been out on the road for a minute, and they just left Cleveland or Columbus, and they just crushed it. And they come to Dayton, and you could hear a mouse piss on cotton.
And a lot of those you guys just you're hillbillies here. You just don't get it. That's what a lot of them would say. That would be their excuse.
No.
And the problem was we explained. I'm a fan of all comedy, right? But I think I prefer, I don't know how to say this right, but black comedy over other comedy. And the reason why I say that is I think that black comedy is more real and more honest than any other comedy, from the comic through the crowd. Because if you don't bring it there, like we said upstairs, you know right away.
Right away.
Right away.
Right.
We had a comic that went on stage at Wiley's. It was almost an all-black crowd. And he said, last night I was with this woman, and somebody from the crowd said, no, you weren't. You were at Taco Bell with me. And he stood there. And he goes, I don't know what to do. And the crowd goes, hey, Jimmy, hit the music.
Yeah.
So I hit the music. He goes, thank you, good night. And then all it took was 30 seconds, and that was it.
That's it. You're
Yeah.
done.
But I think at Wiley's you had that same thing. And Chris's Club is kind of that way,
It's kind of that
but the Comedy Corner that was that way in Palm Beach, and the Boston one, the Boston Comedy Club that I used to go to, that was near Quincy's Market, was a really good comedy club.
Boston has a long history of good comedy clubs.
Yeah.
You know, they know comedy.
And again, Bill Burr, Dennis Leary, the
You
list,
know, quality.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, quality comics come out of that area because, yeah, you got really, I think that's, to me, that's a big part of comedy development, comics development, is if you've got good audiences, if you've got audiences that demand really good original stuff,
Right.
Yeah,
then you have to get better.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
And that's the way the black rooms were, and that was what I was told.
Well, the black
You got-
rooms,
you
the
got-
white rooms, you know, I always try to tell people, I especially tell the rookies, the one thing I can tell you about Dayton and comedy, going all the way back to the 80s, is pretty much, for the most part, most of the people who came up through the Dayton comedy system, when they went to LA, they were ready. Because every
Yep.
single one of them hit big.
Mhm.
Big.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking, you know, got out there and maybe got on the Comedy Store list. Big.
Right.
Okay?
Drew
TV.
Hastings is one you
Wait,
think of.
Drew Hastings, Pat Kilbane, Maestro Clark. They all
Oh,
went out there.
Maestro. I went to high school with Maestro.
Okay, they all went out there, and within literally, Ryan Singer, Dave Wade, everybody that's come out of this area,
Dave Wade. Always smiling, Dave Wade.
Yep.
yeah, goes out to the coast, and within a very short amount of time, they're noticed because that's telling.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nikki Glazer is from
right.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, there is something in the area that I think honestly prepares you in a way that you don't necessarily get from the coast, and that's why when people from this area, when they go out and hit LA, yeah, they hit hard and they're noticed
Right.
because they come with the goods.
Mhm.
And another thing too is that a lot of comedy clubs in this country have gone to the wayside, and for some reason, for 39 years, Wiley's is still there. It might not be as busy as it once was,
Look,
but it's still a place for open micers to go to in this
let me
to
tell you
get
something.
started.
With this COVID thing, I've done gigs in parking lots over the last 6 months. The fact that I get to play indoors at Wiley's is a godsend. Any club that's opened is a good thing.
Right. That's the other thing. I've been watching some other comics. I saw Ron White.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with him. I talked to my Uncle Wiley about Rich Papura.
Yeah.
A lot of the older comics are saying, you know what? I'm kind of done with it. Maybe I'm done.
Maybe I'm done.
And Wiley said something to me that really meant a lot of sense to me. He goes, Jimmy, 10 months off stage is like 10 years to these seasoned comics.
Yeah, you better believe it is.
He goes, and there's stuff for it. And he goes, that's why what Dave did this past summer in Yellow Springs
Was so important.
So important.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to get back to where we can be inside again to see comedy.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, you kind of made. I mean, where have you? What was the last time you did a stand-up set?
October.
Where was that at? Oh, that's right. You
Mason
headlined
City,
Christmas Club.
Mason City, Illinois.
And what was and
No, I
then-
didn't headline that time. I got to work with Larry Reed. Uncle
Oh,
Larry.
Uncle Larry.
Uncle
Just a
Larry.
tip from your Uncle Larry. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
so how
that
was
was fun.
how was that?
That was good. I mean, it was, it's still a small crowd, but you can't call that a crowd. I mean, when it's under 10, do you call it a crowd?
I call it a crowd if it's two.
You like the two-person crowd?
I don't, you know.
I mean, we
I mean,
know
there was like 10, 12 people shows up for the show.
I've seen
But we
Dave
did all the
Chappelle do
shows.
45 at Wiley's for free for 12 people.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's a crowd. As long as you have 10, that was the limit.
Yeah.
Except for open mic. I'd be like, okay, eventually they'll show up. But, I mean, I want to say something to you both. You guys have been a part of my comedy life, like, from the beginning. From 95, when I started working at Wiley's in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, Wiley's like, if you're going to learn a business, you're going to learn it from the ground up.
That was the ground.
And I'm like, you just didn't have anybody else who wanted to work in the fucking parking lot is what it was. And then he brought me inside, but I got to know the comics, I got to see how things were run. And you guys have like been a major part. I mean, what I miss about the club is the nights that you guys weren't working, but you were there.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, hey, I heard this guy's playing, or I've never seen him before, I want to come see him.
Yeah.
Or thank you guys for the times I've called you up and said, yo man, I ain't paying you shit, but I want you to come down and do 45 minutes for me for my free show I'm doing.
Okay.
You guys mind doing it?
Yeah.
I mean, Jesse and I, one of my favorite times was the first show I ever did was Anti-Valentine's Day.
Oh, man.
And it was a midnight show.
That was a good one.
And at 9 o'clock, we had our regular Valentine's Day show with a very, very funny man, Rex Havens.
Mm-hmm.
And we had about 50 people showed up because we were having a blizzard.
Yeah.
And Jesse, you headlined, and at 12, the show's supposed to start at 12, and at 5 till 12, we had 6 people in there. And at 10 after 12, we had 180 people in there.
Sold out.
And that was at midnight in the middle of a
Great
freaking
show.
In a
blizzard.
blizzard.
And it was one of the funnest shows we ever had because they drank like fish. They all had a good time.
Insane.
And Jesse again was the perfect guy because you were at the time the angry
Oh
comic.
man, was I angry.
You were angry about a lot of things.
I was angry about a lot.
And that's what we're going to get into when we come back. We're going to talk about who were your major influences and who and basically a roundabout way is a thing too is how comedy has changed, where it is nowadays with the political correctness, and because folks, a lot of you might not know, but comedy almost died. It really almost died, and because of these guys and because of people like Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr and people like that just said, you know what, fuck it, we're doing what we want to do, which these two guys do it that way still. It's saved comedy, and that's one of the things I want to talk about when we come back. Anything you want to add to the story that you haven't?
No.
Any favorite comic well, we'll get into that when we come back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once more, we're going to take a little break. Thanks for tuning in to Everything Under the Sun, and we'll be right back.